If you're a landlord and you're going to take a last month's rent payment from a tenant at the time the tenant signs a lease agreement with you, then there's a few things you need to know. First of all, you cannot take more than the amount of the initial monthly rent payments. Okay, so whether it's a fixed term lease, whether it's a month-to-month lease, whether it's a lease where at a certain point the monthly payments could increase, whatever it is, you cannot take more than the initial monthly payment and hold that as the last month's rent. Another thing, although you don't need to escrow the money the same way you would with a security deposit, you still need to be very careful with how you handle the money. You need to give the tenant a receipt, and it's best to let the tenant know where the money is going to be held, and you want the tenant to actually sign the receipt acknowledging how much he gave you. And another thing that's important to keep in mind, and people lose sight of this, it's the interest on that money. All right, you are responsible or obligated to give the interest back to the tenant when the lease ends. So in Massachusetts, the interest will be either 5% annually or whatever interest you're receiving from the bank that it's deposited in. All right, so let's say you put it into an account, and that account gives a 3% annual interest. Then that's what you're obligated to give back to the tenant. Now, if you lose sight of this, if you don't give the tenant the interest, then you're liable for that interest times 3, which may not sound like much, but in addition to that, you would be obligated to pay the tenant's attorney if the tenant ever turned on you and filed a suit against you, or if you tried to evict the tenant and he counterclaimed against you. Right? So that would be costly, and that's something you want to avoid. Right? So if you're taking the last month's rent, be very careful in how you handle it. Do your research. Otherwise, it could come back to bite you.